Hot Mama's Cool Planet brings you two hot, bold, lifelong friends, Mur in bustling London town and Mishi in sunny California, with a bi-continental podcast on sustainable living, self-care, and the gloriously messy middle of life. So I'm Mishi, and I live in Davis, which is a small bicycle riding town in between the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento, the capital of California. I'm a game developer. I am a creative person. I am an artist, and I am a parent, among other things. And this is Mur.
Hello, I'm Mur. I live in London after growing up and spending most of my adulthood in America. I live here with my husband, who I call the hairy guy, and my daughter, who I call Godzilla. And I'm a researcher and a storyteller with a special passion for hair. And Mishi and I have known each other for decades. I will not count how many decades they've been, but it's been a few. You're counting. I've lost count.
Yeah. All right. So our topic this week is if the shoe fits, or Mur's beautiful flippers, or maybe we're still gonna settle on a name for it. But before we get to that, we will share a tiny pleasure that we've each had in the last week. And I was thinking I would share that my son, 11-year-old Manga Monster, is starting to have his own opinions, and I really enjoy watching that. And even if the results are sometimes kind of strange, like I made us a pasta sauce once a week. I'm mostly vegetarian, but once a week I do eat fish. And so I had mussels in my pasta sauce, and I made that for us on Sunday with some whole wheat spaghetti. And he really liked it. And then a few days later, I had leftover spaghetti, and I made it into like a Chinese chow mein with all these vegetables. And I was like, okay, here's our dinner. And he's like, well, no, where's that yummy sauce that you made? I want to have that with this. I'm like, no, this is chow mein. This is Chinese food now. That's what we're having. And he's like, no, I'll get the sauce and I'll make it. And he added the sauce, the Italian sauce, to his chow mein, and he was like, Mom, this is so good. And so yeah, it was just really like, wow, he has his own opinions, and he asserts himself sometimes, and it's so cute. So
yeah, well, enjoy the cuteness, because Godzilla is 13 and it gets less cute as teenager kicks in. Although I like the Italian-Chinese fusion meal that Manga Monster invented. That sounds definitely worth noting, and maybe chefdom is in his future.
Yeah, I mean, we do have arguments about screen time and gamer time that are not so cute, where he asserts himself. So, yeah, I see what's coming ahead. Sometimes it's not. Yeah.
I swear I wasn't that bad when I was a teenager. My tiny pleasure for the week is that it snowed this week. Here in London, it's cold and dark and gloomy all winter, but once in a while it actually snows, and that's so delightful. Living most of my life in California, I didn't really get to see a whole lot of snow, and it doesn't snow very often here in London, but it snowed enough that it actually stuck. There was enough snow there that like kids can make snowballs, and I took like some pictures of snowflakes, and they just looked like white blobs in the end. But I adore snowflakes, and to me it's just magical watching this white fluff fall from the sky. So that was definitely a pleasure for me.
That is very fun. I grew up mostly in California, but when I was in high school, my mom got a job working in Washington State. And so we got to have snow for a couple years in the winter, and we would build igloos and snow people, and yeah, I remember that was really fun. So
Yeah. I mean,
that,
my younger childhood, I was living in New York, and I do remember like every winter with the icicles and the sledding and all of that was so magical. But yeah, it's still every time I see snow, it's just it's fairyland. You know, I love it.
yeah. Well, how beautiful. Okay, so let's move to our topic. So tell me how you first started thinking about flippers and feet and shoes and all
Well,
that.
it was you, Mishi, back when we were freshmen in college, dorm roommates. We were 17, so who knows what was going on exactly, but I remember you looking at my feet and describing them as flippers. Do you remember that? Do you remember calling my feet flippers?
I do. I think I have this memory of like our dorm beds. They were like bunk beds on top of each other, and your legs hanging off, and they were just sort of flopping there, hanging there, and they looked all floppy, like flippers, kind of like mermaid flippers. Yeah.
So that has stuck with me, and I have described my feet as flippers ever since because they are flipper-like. They're flat and they're kind of floppy, and it turns out, with years and years and years of thinking about my flippers, that actually describes a particular type of feet. And I know I'm not alone here. There's a lot of people out there with flat or low arches and who overpronate, which means that every time I take a step, the flexibility of my foot flattens. So each step, the weight coming down, my arch flattens and I go flat for a moment. And then it bounces back up when there's no weight on it and it has a little arch again. Not much, but an arch, right? So that's called overpronating. And with enough time, enough abuse, enough weight, I could have fallen arches and they would be permanently flat potentially.
Ooh, I think that's what happened to my dad. He has very difficult feet.
Yeah, and a lot of other problems can happen when you overpronate or have these low arches. I mean, if you think about like architecture, an arch is a really strong structure. So people who have high, strong arches have more stability, better balance. People with low arches, floppy flippers like mine, are just building on a mushier foundation. And so you end up having a lot of associated problems that often are correlated with low arches, flat feet, including what I'm getting the beginnings of, which is bunions. My grandmother had terrible bunions. My sister had to have bunion surgery. And I've noticed that I have the beginnings of a bunion on my left foot. And along with that comes a host of other problems. And it's all basically because like the structure, the actual mechanical structure of your feet is kind of collapsing every time you step. And so you compensate by sort of rolling inward and your toes kind of mush outward. Now, of course, this is aggravated by the fact that I spent like my entire 20s and 30s wearing high heels and pointy-toed shoes. You remember my shoe collection.
Tell me more about the pointy shoes and the high heels. I remember that you used to love these amazing shoes that you would be able to wear, and yeah, I would sometimes borrow your shoes, but I never was able to really borrow the real high heels. So tell me more about that. What do you love about high heels?
I love how they look. Again, it's like these structural, mechanical things that are like augmenting your feet and making you look like some sort of alien insect or I don't know what, but I think they're great. They make your legs look really extra curvy and sexy because of it's throwing your weight off and it's forcing you to compensate with, you know, your thighs and your calves all putting in extra effort. Unfortunately, it's also putting a lot of tension on your feet. So my toes.
I'm having that, you know, that Chapel Roan song, the Pink Pony Club, that's running through my head right now. And I'm thinking, is it because you've spent some time in Los Angeles, that, you know, this love of of really high heels.
Yeah, I love the glamour of it. I mean, I did live in LA for a while, and I was definitely on stage for various reasons, but I remember after that, when I was working in the tech industry, just going to work every day wearing my ridiculous high heels and having all of these like tech bros who were barefoot in the office, and I thought that was a travesty, looking at me like I was some sort of a weirdo, you know. But I absolutely loved the look, and
Wait a minute. Tell me more about this tech fashion. So they were barefoot. What else were they wearing?
you've worked in tech, so you know these kinds of guys who are not at all thinking of fashion. You know, they're
Like
probably
wearing their pajamas to work, basically.
wearing their pajamas to work, wearing corporate logo clothes because that's what they rolled out of bed and threw on, and they're just wearing like their socks or some ugly old sneakers and not really caring at all about how they present themselves, which is a choice. And you know, they were coders and they were QA engineers and they were whatever they were doing, and they were their shoes, their footwear didn't really matter, but I thought it was cool to wear really, really silly shoes, and I still think it's I miss wearing silly shoes. So my challenge now is to find shoes that work with what I've discovered are my feet problems and still look cute, which is becoming harder and harder the more I learn about my feet, these flippers of mine. So as I've mentioned,
Can I just interject
Yeah.
my own opinion about shoes? Because I've also always loved shoes, and I've always, been, reticent to spend a lot of money on clothes, but I would spend more money on shoes. Way back, when I first graduated from college and we moved to San Francisco, I remember I always had really cool shoes. But what I've always liked is what I think of as like grandmother chic.
Yeah, I remember you wearing granny chic shoes.
Like comfortable shoes that are somehow stylish at the same time. And I don't know why, I just think that kind of shoe is the kind that, like, do you remember when we went to Italy together and we got matching shoes that were sort of like these clowny heels with tie-up red laces
and open toes. And
open
like
toes,
polka dots all over them. I
yeah,
love those.
with the polka dot holes. Those were cool, and they were also relatively comfortable.
Yes, they are. They don't have a very high heel. So what I've learned is basically with years and years and years of wearing these high heels and these pointy toes is that my feet didn't appreciate that. I kind of got a hint of it when I started running marathons, like a long time ago. And at that point, I went to special running stores where they do like a whole gait analysis and they look at your feet. And at that point, they put words to what I'd always known about my flippers and made me understand what special needs feet like mine have. But, fast forward again another couple of decades, and time has taken a toll on my body, and other parts have started compensating for this bad foundation down at the bottom. Because when you're wearing heels and when you're wearing pointy-toed shoes, the pointy toes are deforming your feet into the wrong shape. I mean, that's just a major problem, whether they're flat or heels. But when you put a heel on it, then you're putting weight on it where it's getting deformed. So what I've come to realize lately is that my toes need to spread out. All of our toes need to spread out.
Yes.
And most shoes are not designed for that. So most shoes, the widest part is at like the ball of your foot, and then it gets narrower from there. Maybe pointy, maybe just rounded, but in any event, that's the widest part. It shouldn't be. Your toes are actually the widest part because they start at where the ball of your foot is, but then they should be able to splay out whenever you put weight on them. They should be able to support you and balance you, and it's really hard to find a pair of shoes like that.
Do you have any visual aids that you could share of these different shoes? I know some of our listeners wouldn't be able to see them, but it'd be cool to actually see some shoes.
I'll have to put that in the final recording because I don't have anything on me right now. But you
Okay.
know what's like really popular shoes that are good in terms of like the toe being wide are Birkenstocks and Crocs. Ugh, which my younger self, who was into pointy toes and high heels, would have been disgusted by. But it turns out both of these allow your toes to splay out, and that's what's really helpful. There are other things you can do to combat a life of pointy toes and high heels and an biological origin story of having flippers for feet. So there's a lot of strengthening exercises that you can try to make your feet stronger, build up your arches, and some of these are. I guess my favorite one is. Did you ever see the movie Die Hard?
No.
Well, it's a famous movie from probably the 80s, I guess. And in it, all the Die Hard fans out there might remember that at the beginning, Bruce Willis is being told by some guy that when he gets off the airplane, the way to get over jet lag is to scrunch your toes up like fists, move your feet like fists. And so my favorite foot strengthening exercise is you put your feet like fists and then you splay them out. So I'm doing it with my hands right now. You can see like make a tight fist and then splay it out. But do that with your toes, right? So
I'm
try
doing
with your
that with my toes right now.
So make fists and then splay it out, right? So that's my favorite exercise. You can do it anywhere as long as your shoes or give you the space, or you're barefoot or whatever. And it's a really good strengthening exercises. Splaying your toes out is also just generally speaking a really good thing to be doing for your feet. There's something called short foot, which means essentially you place your foot down and you try to curve your foot so that it's bean shaped, so that you give yourself an arch even if you don't have one, and then you use your muscles to hold it in that position. And you try to be really conscious of this as you're walking and going about your day, and you try to keep that arch in there. It doesn't mean stepping on the side of your foot. It means thinking of the ball of your big toe, the ball of your pinky toe, and then your heel. All three of them need to be in action, and it
So
takes
I
a lot
have
of
a question
attention.
about the arch, because I have really high arches and I'm this tall person, and when I do yoga, the hardest poses for me are the balance poses, because there's just not that much surface contact of my feet with the ground to balance on. But I would think if you had more flat feet, it would give you better balance when you were just doing those kind of poses. Have you ever noticed that?
I have terrible balance, and from what I've read is that flat feet like mine are generally worse at balance. And what I've observed from like the hairy guy who has gorgeous feet, they look like Michelangelo sculptures. They're like totally structural. He has excellent balance. If you look at ballet dancers, they usually have these really high arches. On the other hand, it's individual, because like if you look at Simone Biles, the best athlete in the entire world who can like balance on a beam and do flips. I mean, she's incredible. She has totally flat feet. I remember looking at her, doing the Olympics and seeing her feet and being like, yes, represent. And if it's possible for her to be this incredible athlete with these flat feet, anything's possible.
Okay.
But generally speaking, high arches is correlated with better balance. So you're just you.
Okay. I just have bad balance, I guess. I mean, I think it's because I'm tall also. That's my excuse.
Yeah, I think anything can be worked on, and whether there's something that's correlated with the way your body functions, your individual experience is going to be yours.
Yeah, and I have gotten better. And when I took surfing lessons, when I went on a trip to Mexico a couple of years ago, I went to, this friend of mine knew someone who runs an orphanage at the border of Guatemala and Mexico, where they bring orphans in and they teach you surf lessons.
Wow.
And so I had never actually, I've done a lot of bodyboarding and boogie boarding, but I'd never gone surfing. So I took a surfing lesson, and I was able to get up on the board right away and catch some waves. And he told me, my instructor told me that it was people who do yoga have better capability to do that. So I was like, oh, all those, my bad balance has at least improved enough to allow me to surf.
That's that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can work on balance, whether your feet are floppy or sturdy. You can, a lot of it comes from your core. It's not necessarily your feet. But getting your feet stronger helps for sure. So doing these feet like fist exercises and short foot exercises is great. Another thing you can do is wear toe spreaders, which has become my new thing. I'll show you. I have some right here. Can you see those? So yeah, so like
those
this
look
big
fun.
one, yeah, this big one goes like in between your big toe and your next toe like that, and then you stick each of your toes in there, like so it ends up looking like this except on your feet, and it so it forces your feet to splay. If you've spent a lifetime wearing pointy-toed shoes where they've been stuck together all this time, you want them to spread out. And training them to do this with these toe spreaders I've noticed a difference, not only in that my feet are now spreading out a little bit better, my toes are, but also when I'm wearing them, I'm wearing some right now, I have better balance, I can feel the difference because I have a bigger surface area, I guess. I can tell that I have better balance. However, they don't fit in most shoes, so generally speaking, I can't really wear these and go out at the same time. I'm
thinking of also my German grandmother went through some really hard times after World War II, and her husband would get her these high-heeled shoes that were too small for her feet.
Oh.
Yeah, and so she had like bunions and all this stuff, and she used to wear these high-heeled shoes that didn't fit her, and
since I've been learning all about this, it really makes me think of like Chinese foot binding and how, as Americans, we've really disparaged that. We thought, oh, how brutal, how inhumane. But then I have looked at how we wear our shoes too tight and squishing them together, and I realized that maybe it's not as drastic, but it's a similar thing where we're trying to mold our feet into these unnatural shapes. So generally speaking, men have it better. They're usually not wearing high heels and maybe not quite as aggressively pointy toes. But even like fashion sneakers are too narrow in the toe. And so I've been trying to find shoes that have wide toe boxes so my toes can spread out. And naturally that led me to minimalist shoes or barefoot shoes, which gets a lot of press these days. Most visually with those 5-finger toe shoes, which look really silly, but you don't have to get the ones with the 5 toe pockets. You can just get like a wide toe box and your minimalist shoes. The thing is, okay, so I'm 100% on board with the wide toe box, but the whole idea of minimalist shoes comes with a few other tenets as well, and one of them is that the sole should be minimal. So minimal cushioning, minimal stability. It should just be flexible, soft, barely there, essentially so that you can feel the ground beneath you. It's called proprioception, when your body is able to feel what's going
proprioception.
On. Isn't that a good word?
Wasn't it from this tribe from northern Mexico that would run really far barefoot and beat everyone else in races and marathons? I think
I remember hearing about
that's
that.
what inspired the barefoot trend, if I'm right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, so the thing is that the barefoot sole is not for everyone. While I am 100% on board with the wide toe box, that is for everyone, the barefoot sole is good for people, maybe like with your feet, where it's generally healthy, but you want them to be stronger and you want to feel what's going on. And but for people who have like maybe messed up feet, perhaps self-imposed from a lifetime of wearing high heels, or maybe just genetically, who knows what, it may not always be the right solution. So I tried some barefoot shoes, and it turns out they're not for me because I have another ailment, which is it's basically arthritis of the big toe. It's called hallux limitus or hallux rigidus once it gets too bad. So it means that I have, my big toe can't bend quite as much as a good, healthy big toe can, and it hurts when I if it bends too much. So if I'm wearing really flexible soles, it hurts. My big toe hurts, and I can't do it. So I need a more rigid sole.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a problem because these wide toe boxes are always on these minimalist soles. So my current goal is to find myself a shoe that has a wide toe box but with a rigid sole.
Okay. Have you ever, I was just, as you were talking about this, I was remembering when I lived in Asia for, almost 10 years, and I lived in a lot of different condos and apartment buildings around Singapore, and they often had these walking meditation stone areas where you were supposed to like walk barefoot, and it would do all these little stones would we're supposed to do good things for your whole body, like as you walked on them. But I always found them incredibly painful. Like I just couldn't do it, and I didn't know if it's just if you had wider feet and what it was.
You get used to it. So you've probably seen when you were living in Singapore, a lot of Chinese people will wear like those slippers, those sandals that have like bumps on them. Have you seen those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tried them out, and they are so painful. And it's the same kind of thing as with the stone walkway. Your feet will get used to it after a while. But it's also the same as you've had those foot massages, right?
Yes,
Where
yes.
it's called foot reflexology.
Yes.
And sometimes they can be super painful. They take
Yes.
like what looks like a Sharpie,
torture.
and they like poke right in there. Yeah. So those are all trying to do the same things, and they're trying to like they have
it's trying to like heal all these things in other parts of your body through your feet, which is amazing. But
I need to do more research into that, because I haven't been paying close attention to it in terms of my foot journey.
Maybe you need to circle back to trying some. If you could find a good foot reflexologist, maybe they could help you with some of your ailments.
I would love, at this point, my big one is this toe arthritis problem that I have. That one seems to be the one that gives me most pain. But a lot of people with my foot composition, with the overpronation and the low arches and all that, a lot of them will develop bunions, have plantar fasciitis, which is when like the bottom of your foot, the heel area, becomes really painful, especially like in the morning or when you're just getting up after not doing anything for a long time. It's a really common one that a lot of people feel. So for some people, these minimalist shoes are great. They will help you to strengthen your feet and give you all the room you need to like spread them out. But for other people, you need the cushioning, you need the rigid sole. And for us, the best I've found are some running shoes, but like I spent most of my life wearing heels and pointy toes. Like running shoes are not cool.
Running shoes are back. I've noticed, at least in California, in kind of startup world, people wear nicer clothes, but then they wear the running shoes with them of both genders.
I'm trying to get into that style. I'm trying.
And some of my friends do have like some pretty styling, like pretty colors on them, running shoes, and that are more for work and stuff. And
you have to watch out though, because like I said, like fashion sneakers also have those narrow toe boxes, so it's not every running shoe that's going to be appropriate for getting full toe mobility. But if this is an issue that matters to you, you need to do a lot more homework than you might want to do.
What about, do you remember, like, fashion goes through all these cycles, it goes in and out, but platform shoes have gone in and out of fashion a bunch of times. And I remember when we went to France together, and I had these running sneakers with really high platforms on them. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, it was the time that we did that volunteer work in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Then we escaped because they were not treating us. They were not treating us well, and we managed to escape them and go on this trip.
Ran away.
But anyway, I just remember wearing those platform running shoes around everywhere, and it's sort of like maybe for you, you would get that sensation of wearing high heels, but in a comfortable way. If you didn't hate the fashion of it.
That's the problem. So what I've been wearing lately for the past, I don't know, 6 months or so are these Hoka running shoes because they're known for having a wide toe box. But as somebody who's never really been into running shoes except for during my marathon phase, and in that case the shoes were only for running, like now I'm wearing them all day long, right? They are so built up, so cushioned. I feel like I'm walking on marshmallows. And, if we talk about proprioception, it's completely blocked. I cannot tell what's going on underneath my feet.
That's
I must
true.
be 1 or 2 inches above ground wearing these marshmallows under my feet.
That's true. It's the exact opposite of proprioception.
Yeah.
But
So,
I've seen these Crocs in the store the other day. I saw them. They were these huge, like, platform Crocs that...
I don't think those are good for you.
You don't think those are good for you? Okay.
I think, okay, so platforms they're not good for proprioception. If you were to turn your ankle wearing platforms, that probably, you'd have a bad ankle injury at that point because you're falling from a height. It's way worse than if you were just on the ground turning your ankle. However, for somebody with my toe issues, the hallux rigidus that I was talking about, it's actually pretty good because they're really rigid soles, so I'm not bending my toe. So for me, platforms have always been kind of comfortable,
Okay.
strangely enough. So yeah, I'm wearing these Hokas these days, which have a wide toe box, but feel like I'm walking on marshmallows. I wish that I could find something that is a little less cushioned, but still rigid down there and has that wide toe box. So I have my eye on some, they're like Lem's Chelsea boots. And so I'm thinking if I can they're not the most gorgeous shoes ever, but at least they're not sneakers, which is important to me. And the problem is, like, they're so expensive and they're not in everyday stores, so I can't just try them on first. I have to buy them and try them on at home and then return them if they end up not working for me, and that's like so much of a commitment. So I'm working up the nerve for that,
And also, I remember a few years ago I looked into sustainable shoes, and they were so expensive. I just, looked up a bunch of brands and did some research, but I didn't actually get any of them because, I don't mind spending money on shoes, but they were just like, I mean, maybe things have changed. Actually, we should probably look into it.
Sustainable shoes is so interesting because people talk about vegan leather all the time, but then that's usually made of plastic, right?
Yeah.
So you can get like mushroom leather and pineapple leather. I'm not sure if those are made into shoes. And then why not just cloth, canvas shoes? That's fine too.
Right. Yeah. Although if you have all these byproducts from the meat, I have mixed feelings about the leather because I hate to think of things just going to waste. So, but I'm not totally 100% on the vegan shoes.
Yeah, sustainable doesn't have to mean vegan.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really hard to find the perfect shoe that answers all of your needs of being cute and letting your toes wiggle and, answering whatever problems you have. Yeah, some people whose feet are so far gone, they need that arch support. Other people whose feet are, maybe you could get away with the minimalist shoes and build up the strength. But even with minimalist shoes, you have a wide array of brands. There are some that are really cheap, and they're obviously made in like Chinese factories with questionable labor and questionable materials. And then you have really expensive brands that are probably in better conditions and better materials, better made, but way more expensive. And if you're not quite sure what's going to work for you and your feet, it's really hard to justify spending $200 on a new pair of shoes when you could spend $30, and try it out for the first time.
Yeah, and also a lot of times if it's so specialized, you're ordering it online and then you don't get to try it on before you buy it, and
that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, totally. So yeah, you were really, really sharp back when we were 17 years old, and you call my feet flippers. Because now, whenever I look at like a seal and I see their flippers and they're like these long, skinny, flat things, I see my feet. And I think if I were a sea creature, it would make perfect sense.
Well, at least you spend a lot of time in your backyard hot tub, right, with your foxes, and then your feet get to be in their natural habitat.
I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
So you'll be happy to know that the hairy guy and Godzilla call them flippers as well.
What about Godzilla? Did she inherit your flipper feet?
Or the Michelangelo feet of the hairy guys?
Yeah.
Hers are somewhere in the middle. I'm afraid that they're a little bit more on the flipper side. So I keep trying to warn her and tell her, like, you got to start now. Don't repeat the mistakes that I made. But, you know, she's a teenager. She won't listen. She's going to wear whatever cute shoes that don't fit her right and figure it out herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope she got a little bit of a stronger arch. Yeah.
Yeah, I just was flashing back to when I was a teenager doing really weird things with shoes. Like, I remember sawing off the heels of this one pair of heels because I liked how the rest of the shoes looked, but they had like all these like goth laces on them, but I'm like, I don't want to wear heels.
Did you end up walking around in them with like your toes pointing up?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
I've kept most of my shoes, by the way. So next time you visit me here in London, we can look at all of my cool old high heels, most of them, because I couldn't bear to get rid of them. They're so beautiful.
I have this one pair of goth shoes from when I was a teenager. I bought them they were these pointy boots.
Pointy-toed boots with all the buckles on the side.
Goth boots that I bought in Germany when I was like 15. That I was like, if I ever have a daughter, I'm going to give these to her. So, I don't know, let Godzilla know that...
her feet are now one size smaller than mine. So she can pretty much wear them, but not quite. And actually, that was one of my Hanukkah or Christmas gifts to her. They're flats. I have these cool knee-high boots that I wore to death for probably 10 years in a row, like nonstop. I love these boots. And then the zipper broke. It was this big industrial size zipper and it was broken and they were just languishing for a long time and she was coveting them over the last like year or two. So I got them fixed and polished and now they are hers and I'm so jealous I want them back.
Yeah, you can repair shoes if they're well made enough to be worth repairing.
Those shoes were a few $100s, I remember when I got them, and they were Fluvogs, if you remember that brand. And and I spent like 45 pounds on getting them fixed, and she was on her Christmas list was a pair of Steve Maddens that were 200 pounds, and instead of that she got my hand-me-downs that I think are way better, and I feel happy about the whole transaction.
Very cool.
Except that now I'm jealous because I want them on my feet. Do you remember, too, when we used to swap shoes sometimes, the feeling, I would always have this feeling, I would like look down at your feet and wonder what my feet were doing over there. And, like,
yeah, we used to swap shoes and clothes when we were in college, and yeah, that was nice. It was an expanded wardrobe.
It was. It was very convenient that we were roommates with the same shoe size.
Yeah, and the same clothes size, although
more or less.
I didn't have the curves that you have.
Yeah, but you liked things big and loose, so it worked out.
Yeah.
So now you know all about my flippers, and if any of our listeners out there are experiencing similar, I would love to hear your advice about what are some cute wide toe box shoes that are not wide shoes and are not ugly sneakers and are not minimalist soles that you would recommend to me.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to share about your flippers? Or I think
Not about my flippers, but I think maybe we're ready to talk about our intention for the week. Do you have one in mind for yourself?
Not yet. Why don't you go first?
Putting me on the spot. All right. My my intention for the week. I've been doing a really good job with last week's intention, which is to work my way through my to-do list, and I've been getting on it. And my intention moving forward is to stick with that, but with a special emphasis on getting quicker, faster, more deliberate with putting content out there into the world. So not only do I have this podcast, but I also have my YouTube channel, The Detangler, about hair and art and rituals and legends, and I'm really wanting to put new content out there. So that's my goal for this coming week, is to get at least one video posted and another one in the works.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a good thing to do. My intention, I was just remembering what I want to do, is I was looking up some Eckhart Tolle videos the other day, and he talks about the canvas between the thoughts, and how when he does a talk, he doesn't even know what he's going to talk about. And I was just like,
hey, can I interrupt for one sec? Tell our listeners who Eckhart Tolle is.
Eckhart Tolle is this German mystic who had this revelation when he was young, when he was on a trip to London, I think. And I personally had a lot of doubts about him. I was like, oh, he's just this person that tech people like. And but then I actually watched his videos, and I really enjoy how he approaches the world, and how he thinks about so many things, and especially mindfulness, and being in the present moment, appreciating and enjoying the present moment, and not worrying about the future or the past. And so yeah, I want to appreciate the present moment as much as possible, and not get too caught up in my thoughts and my worries about things. And that's my intention this week.
That's a good one. Yeah, I went through a phase, I think, from your recommendation of listening to a bunch of Eckhart Tolle, and then he fell off my radar, and now I'm going to go back and listen to some of that again. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that kind of wraps up this episode of Hot Mama's Cool Planet.
Flippers.
Flippers. Oh yeah, do you remember you introduced, you were the coolest, by the way. Just for anyone listening out there, I pretty much owe whatever coolness I have to Mishi as a teenager who was way cooler than me. And
What?
You were into some cool punk rock band, I want to say from Seattle maybe, called Flipper. Do you remember?
No.
You don't? Well, I do. And yeah, anyway, so go back and listen to your Flipper records and Eckhart Tolle and see which one resonates with you more.
Okay. I'll look up Flipper. I lost track of my records. I used to have quite a nice record collection.
That was my other pleasure that I didn't share this week or last week, but since you just mentioned it, I'm going to, because it was bigger than a tiny pleasure. But one of our family Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever presents was a record player, and so I got to go back and listen to some of my old records, which was really, really fun. And
that's super fun.
I'm going to go and listen to another record right after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care.
Then. You too. And I'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.